Welcome to She Rebel Radio, the podcast for high-performing women leaders who want to unlearn conventional rules, leave prestigious careers, and launch businesses of significance. Each week, She Rebel Radio brings you insights and advice from women entrepreneurs who transformed their prestige prisons into daring entrepreneurial success stories. Now, here is your host, Lulu Nins.
Welcome to episode 10 of She Rebel Radio, how to find intrepid commitment to your business. Now, the contents of this episode has changed so many times this week, but I feel like this is going to hit the nail on the head, and it just kind of developed and created for me this morning. So I'm really excited to share the content with you, which is kind of tied to our episode number 5, 3 key mindset shifts to make your side hustle your full-time hustle, where I talk about that full commitment, being committed in your business. So, you know, as the week went by, etc., and conversations that I was having with clients and those in the group in respect of that shift, I thought it'd be really helpful to share with you how you can become committed to your business fully, how you can find that intrepid, that bold, that daring, that fearless commitment to really being all in with your business. So I'm going to share 3 ways that you can do this today, and buckle up, put your seatbelt on, because these are things that you're absolutely going to need to hear, and these are things where you really might have some aha moments. Okay, this is where I'm going wrong. So this is going to be another quite harsh episode, which is why I tell you to buckle up, but there are going to be some real breakthrough moments, I feel, for you. And again, always checking in with where you're at in your journey. You know, you would have heard through the other episodes, including episode 8, which was amazing, with Alexandra and Shani, who are the co-authors of Wild Power and co-founders of Red School. We were talking about a lot of the winter of the soul that can happen for women when leaving corporate. So sometimes we are in that space, and that's part of the journey. So it's really just checking in with where you are at. But if you are ready, ladies, to find that intrepid, bold, daring, and fearless commitment, then this is totally the episode for you. And even if you're not quite there yet, this episode might help you get ready, or you'll remember it when you start to find yourself in that space. And I'm here to support you in moving forward with that in any way that I can. So let's dive into the first one. And this was really inspired by a conversation with my client when I was sharing that content, the 3 mindset shifts that you need to make. And a client that works with me one-to-one and also as part of my mastermind tribe program said to me, do you know what? I've taken the time limit off. I was giving myself 3 months that this has got to happen, that I've got to create a certain level of success. And if I don't, then I'm going to go back to what I was doing before. And I've realized, and that was through conversation, I believe, with a friend, that wasn't serving me, that I wasn't showing up as being all in. And that was a real, you know, highlighting moment, that was real commitment. That's what it takes, because it's not that you don't need to set, you know, goals and intentions and time limits around it. And I think it might have been Jim Rohn who said that, you know, a goal without a deadline is just a dream, or a date is just a dream. And whilst that's totally true, those on this path know that it's not actually often about meeting that goal or intention at a particular time. It's actually, you know, about who you become on the way. And I remember thinking that was really cheesy when I first broke out as a lawyer, because, you know, personal development, self-development, whilst I spent 20 years studying human behaviour, was something that I didn't fully understand, because the legal profession invests in professional development, not personal development, although that is thankfully really starting to change. But I didn't really understand that. And it's totally, totally true. So whilst it's important, set yourself dates and goals and intentions and things to work towards. What is important is it that you're not going to throw the towel in at that point if you haven't reached it, because it's not actually about reaching it at the particular time frame. It's about who you become, the lessons that you learn. So when you take that lid off, that time limit off, and realize that you are all in, no matter how long it takes, that's when you really can anchor yourself in that intrepid commitment, that bold, daring, and fearless commitment that you are going to absolutely do what it takes, and that you have given yourself permission to do that, and you're not available for anything else. And whilst there's different levels of this and you step more and more into it, remember a point when I invested in myself, in my business, which I'm going to move on to point 2 in a moment, that I was like, what's the worst that could happen? And I was like, okay, I would have to rent out my house, move back in with the parents. Oh, that's pretty bad as a woman, professional woman, with a history of a prestigious position in her 30s, moving back in with her parents, and not being able to even support herself with, living in a house that she pays for herself. But I was like, okay, I can live with that. That's better than actually putting a time limit on myself and saying, if this doesn't work, if I fail, I'm going to give up and go back to what I was doing before. So the minute I faced that fear, I really found my intrepid commitment that I was committed to do what it takes to create the success and the lifestyle that I wanted, even though I didn't really know what that fully looked like yet. But my fear of going back to what I was doing before was bigger than my fear of change, and I was open to the journey however it unfolded in front of me. And I really found myself anchoring in that intrepid commitment, which was a real moment when so much changed. So when you can take the time limit off and really know that you are going to do what it takes, you really find that commitment. Secondly, and I've hinted within that, there is the putting your money where your mouth is. And again, in my first business, I wasn't willing to do that. I wasn't willing to put my money where my mouth is. I had a certain amount of money in the bank, and I watched as that slowly drained away, and it wasn't the right business for me. I did invest, I think, £100 in an article. I was almost sold. I think I mentioned this in another podcast episode, a £5,000 PR package, which wasn't right for me. So it's not that you have to invest in all the things, but if you're not putting your money where your mouth is, it might be that it's not the right business for you. It might be that you are not in that place in your journey yet, or it may be that you aren't fully committed and all in, and that you still are open to those option Bs, etc. Because when it's all in, and this again came from speaking to my amazing client, listening to Desert Island Discs, Jo Fairley, talking about her entrepreneurial journey with Green and Blacks, that she used £20,000 from the sale of her flat to invest in shipping the chocolate over in June, where it almost melted because of a heat wave, probably a bit similar to the summer in the UK this year. That she was all in. She put herself, and she was still working her day job as a journalist there. So, using, and there's nothing wrong with that, and using your corporate career, etc., as a funder for your business, as long as emotionally, spiritually, everything else, you can still be in that space. For me, unfortunately, that wasn't an option. I'd spent 2 years too long not taking the action that I needed to take, and being in paralysis analysis and being in lots of fear. That it doesn't mean that you can't still be in the day job if that's funding your passion project, your side hustle, and doing what it takes. But it's really accepting that there are no guarantees in business. That doesn't exist. And either you take the risk, and the bigger the risk is, by the way, the bigger the payoff is as a result of that. The smaller the risk, the smaller the payoff. And also the bigger the risk if it doesn't unfold exactly as you wanted, if you can mark it as a failure in inverted commas, the bigger the lesson will be. Now, I've made investments in my business, in myself, etc., that have been totally perfect and worked out for me and really got me to that next space. And then I've had ones where they haven't, or I felt let down in terms of what I've invested in, but I've learned the lessons, and I've really learned to trust the process in terms of following my gut. And if it feels right, it's right. I'm putting my money where my mouth is, and then things unfold to a different way than you might expect. That's totally fine. And again, Jo Fairley talks about that on the Desert Island Discs. I definitely recommend that episode of it, that if she knew how successful she was going to be, she probably wouldn't have done it. So quite often we also fear the success just as much, if not more, than the failure itself. So really check in with that as well. The third one is fast forwarding to the next version of yourself and making decisions from that space. A massive mistake I see with women leaving their prison of prestige and starting their businesses is making decisions from the space that they are currently in, which one is often clouded in lack and scarcity, because they have taken away the security that they have. So instead of even making decisions from the woman they are today in their present self, they go back to all the childhood fears, etc., about various things like money and all of that stuff, and end up actually going backwards and not forwards. And I know that, and I understand it because I've been there myself. But when I learned to fast forward to the next version of myself, to the version of myself that I was becoming and wanting to become, and I still do this now, and it's essential that every entrepreneur to continue to do this, is go, what would the future version of myself do? What decision would she make? Would she be deterred by where her reality is right now, or would she just get on and freaking do it? And a massive thing I've learned is that entrepreneurs don't wait. And if I'm having that conversation with myself, if I'm waiting, I'm stunting my growth. And the more I need the thing, the more decision that I need to make or put my money where my mouth is, the more uncomfortable it might feel, the more I might feel I need to wait, in inverted commas, the bigger stunt to my growth that I'm making. So making decisions from where you want to be instead of where you are right now is what is the thing that creates the vibrational match for the universe, whatever you want to call it, to meet you halfway. But what most people do, what most women do who are breaking out into their businesses, is to barter with the universe, to say, okay, well, I want to do this thing, but you need to bring me X first, which just highlights that you are not fully committed. As does the having a time limit. You are negotiating, bartering, expecting the higher powers that be, the universe, etc., to meet you more than halfway when you are not meeting it halfway. And the beauty of this is the co-creation that happens, that you are not responsible for everything, but you need to do your bit. And the more you find your intrepid commitment, the more you step forward with that, the more the universe will do to meet you halfway. And again, this is, a journey. There are steps to it. And the more you take a risk, the bigger the next one. And I do that and expect to be caught. And I've learned over the last 5 years the level of trust that I can create by taking action that makes me feel uncomfortable, that I don't know if the net's going to appear. And I just get on and do it because that's what the next version of me would do. She wouldn't sit and wait and expect something to necessarily come in to support her. And this is a massive mistake I see with clients in terms of wanting to work with me. I want to work with you, but this needs to happen first. And you know what? Some of them might still be waiting and are waiting 2 or 3 years down the line because of this lesson of what would the future version of you do. They would take action right now. So where is it that you're stunting your growth and action by not being the woman who makes decisions from where she wants to be, who makes decisions from the next version of herself? That is so, so important. So ladies, to sum up, remove those time limits. To find your intrepid, bold, daring and fearless commitment, you need to remove those time limits and be all in no matter what it takes. You need to put your money where your mouth is for the things that feel right to you, not the things that don't feel right to you. Follow your gut, follow your instinct. And thirdly, you need to fast forward to the next version of yourself and be the woman who makes decisions from that space. And that, my friends, is how you find your intrepid, bold, daring, and most fearless commitment, for which there is always another level of it. So it's been amazing to share that with you today. If there is any support I can give you around this, if you've been looking at the Rebel Heart Club Mastermind program in terms of working with me and really anchoring in that intrepid commitment further and really finding yourself in that space where the universe has to meet you because of you stepping out and making that future decision, then I would love to support you. So do reach out to me. Send me an email at lulu@lulumins.com. Find me in the She Rebel Club. Send me a messenger. I will always personally respond if you would like to have an informal chat about the Rebel Heart Club Mastermind. I would love to speak to you about that, and have an amazing rest of the day. I will speak to you very soon.
Thanks for listening to She Rebel Radio, the podcast for high-performing women leaders who want to unlearn conventional rules, leave prestigious careers, and launch businesses of significance. She Rebel Radio is executive produced and hosted by women's advocate and coach Lulu Mins. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe so you never miss another episode. You can find Lulu Mins on Facebook and LinkedIn at Lulu Mins, and on Instagram at LuluMins_biz. Until next week, keep rebelling against the rules and designing success your way.